Hi, and good evening. I'm not sure how the volume levels are on this thing. As I mentioned briefly in my first comment here, I have a microphone set up, but for some odd reason, when I set up everything for this stream, the interface doesn't let me change from the internal microphone on the computer. So for those of you watching, can you hear me, or should I change the tone of my voice to either louder or more, I don't know, specific? So for those of you who I see in the chat at the moment, hi, Andalus, Entropy, Ulf, Erik, and Bellstadt. Hey! So you can hear me, wonderful. I'm not sure if you hear the sound from my microphone over here, or does it sound like it's coming from here, or does it sound like it's coming from here, right or left? If someone can say in the comment field, right or left, or does it sound centered? At least it's a relief that the sound isn't bullshit. Okay. Wonderful. Glad to hear that. And welcome to those of you, hi, joining. Because I hope to find a way to make the video quality better in the future. But as long as the sound is fine, I think that's pretty important. Hi, I can't read the Cyrillic, but hi to you, Russian person, and all of you else joining here. I haven't been to Ontario yet, but I would love to go to Canada when things open up again. Brazil as well, of course. The only issue with Brazil is that it's far away from, I only have contacts in like Chile. And last time I was in Bulgaria, I got stranded at the airport because they refused to let me and my bassist on the flight. So I had to watch him for 8 hours sleeping on the floor of the airport while waiting for the organizer to wake up and meet me up and try to solve the situation. Edward, okay, cool. I have no idea how that is in those letters. I haven't been to Ireland. Somehow, I just don't know any organizers from there. Like a few years ago when I was in Portugal, I met some Irish guys from a band that I don't remember the name of. So I could probably hook something up with them in the future, but yeah. We'll see when the time comes for that. Yeah, I'm aware that Chile is pretty close, but of course the problem is that for me to travel between the countries is a bit more complicated since I rely on others to take me there. Nice to see several people from Brazil. That's pretty cool. With Cal, nah. I can't say from my perspective. I never really listened to grunge, but I know that both Henrik and Felix listen to some stuff like that. So next time I'm in Stockholm, I'll make sure to have them on a live stream so we can have like a Cal focused live stream. And later in the summer, Johan will join me in another live stream on the patio downstairs on the restaurant here, so we can watch the wonderful view together. I haven't been to Russia or Ukraine, not Belarus either. I was booked for 2 shows in Russia a few years ago, but unfortunately my guitarist were away from the country, so he couldn't get his visa properly made. Yeah, and Messe in Montreal was fantastic. I wish to return there someday. And it would be pretty cool to go to Toronto as well, since I have some friends there. It's 21, so 9 in the evening here in Sweden. I'm not sure what I could tell about Consider Suicide that I haven't said yet or so far in the videos, but of course, suggestions for more in-depth aspects about the project is something that I definitely can make a video about, but I feel that's more like a actual video subject than a live stream subject, but we can see. I can definitely do something about it. And Cal released our second album just last summer, so you can find that through all streaming services. And we're working on a new EP or maybe an album. We'll see what happens. We have a couple of songs in the works. I met them in March for the first time in 18 months to rehearse and record some videos. So we're working on making like a live stream with that too in the future. Yeah, I'm looking forward to go to Russia sometime in the future too. Nice to hear that you're enjoying me and Johan. I do too. Favorite black metal bands? Well, one of them is right here. Really underrated band, I think. And concerning Rångesved, I made another version of that song in 2005, and that's coming out on a compilation soon. It's been in the works for the last 2 years. Other music than metal, I don't consider anything a guilty pleasure, but one of my all-time favorites is Kate Bush. I think her voice is amazing and fantastic. Same goes for Björk. But that was like more of a acquired taste. I didn't used to like her in my youth, but then over the years, I started to appreciate all her range. Thunder Bay, I'm not sure where that is. How far is that from because I've been to Vancouver as well around a decade ago when I was with a friend from Seattle. That was pretty nice. I look forward to return there in the future. And it's a bit funny about Niklas, because me and my bassist, who used to be bassist in Shining on the third and fourth album. We made videos about that, but unfortunately I had a different camera then and a different microphone, and for some weird reason the battery died in the microphone to the camera, so the sound cut from the video, so it was mute. So yeah, we haven't been able to reshoot that video yet, but it's coming. So for those wondering about Mr. Kvarford, it's going to happen sometime in the future, sooner or later. I think here is not the right place for it, and if he wants to come on sometime in the future, I'm open for that, but I don't really care for him. Either way, I'm not for or against him or anyone really. I think, yeah, it's a waste of energy. And when it comes to sigils, I made a video about that actually around a year ago. So if you search through my channel, you'll see videos about where I talk about sigils on each of the albums, like in the videos about albums. Hypothetical, is that autocorrect of hypothermia? I'm not sure. Yeah, I'm really excited to work here. It's my third year coming here, and I get along well with the owner and boss here. I don't really have any opinions on Slipknot. I haven't listened to them in almost 20 years. But my friend Jonas was a big fan, and we used to listen to them sometimes when drinking. But that's pretty much it. When it comes to autographing things, I'm not against it, but I prefer to do that in person. It feels very hollow to do something like that otherwise. I'm not in Canada, I'm in Sweden. But there were several people talking about things in Canada, so that's why I started going off on some things about that. Sorry if I'm unclear. Okay. And yeah, I have contact from time to time with Jan. We never had the kind of contact where we speak frequently or often. In the past, we used to write love letters or mails. And yeah, I've been working on the storyline to make a video about our project Life is Pain, since a lot of people ask about it. And there's a lot that I can say about it. So I think that's going to be a nice one coming up in the next months too. So far, I've just worked a few days, and yeah, the return here to the restaurant has been good. So far, it's a low season. This is a seasonal restaurant. It's open between like late April to like early October. Then it closes, and then they have like Christmas-oriented stuff in December. But I don't work for that, so I'm just here until September. And we're also working on adding a new, possibly a new vegan dish to the menu. So I'm doing some trial on that too, to find something interesting. Because right now we just have like a wrap and a burger, and that's fine, but not very exciting. But of course, you can always come here for the wonderful view, and we have a few tasty beers as well. Usually, I don't drink beers on my videos because in the past I noticed that all my videos where I had a beer, they got demonetized. And yeah, Jan is fantastic. Love that guy. Every time I meet him, we have a fantastic time. And I'm not sure about a correlation between depression and high intelligence, but it definitely makes you more introspective. And as for, yeah, it's personal, but for the moment I can say there isn't anyone. For it's not by my choice, it just that's the way it evolved over time, unfortunately. And as for uploading older music, I've already uploaded everything that I feel I stand behind 100%, that shows what my philosophy is about. So anything that's not on Spotify and other places and on this YouTube channel, I'm not going to share that. It had its purpose in the past to help me evolve as an artist and musician until the next step and so on. That's all it was required, I think. And the restaurant is on the mountain of Taberg, which is in Jönköping. Taberg is like 20 minutes outside of the center of Jönköping, which is about 2 hours east of Gothenburg and 3.5 to 4 hours south of Stockholm. So that's where you can put it on a map approximately. And if you search for Jönköping or Taberg in Google Maps, you can see it. I'm happy to answer questions, and yeah, it's a happy surprise for me to see this many of you being active in the chat and in the stream. I think it's I feel a little weird to see myself watching sideways. Hopefully that's something I can get better at. I'll move my computer next time so I can read the chat without sitting like this. Yeah. Sorry if I ramble or stop my sentences a bit. This is called a test for a reason. I have no opinion about the Ukrainian black metal scene. I don't know anything about it. I don't really know much about any scenes outside of my own. I don't listen to much metal music. Like what I mentioned in another video, like the last 2 years, the only black metal I've listened to is Mara, because they were the only one making an album that I felt was actually interesting and genuinely impressive. And why I want to move away, and good evening back to you and all. I want to move away from where I live for several reasons, and one of them is that they've started to remove a lot of the forest around the area, which is depressing to me. And as I spend a lot of my time wandering the forests and through the forest to get to the different cities, it becomes more and more heartbreaking to make that journey each week to upload videos and things like that. And the second reason is that I don't have internet at home. I don't have Wi-Fi, so I can't do things like this. And I have to walk for 1.5 hours just to ship a order or upload a video and so on. And when it comes to the length of the stream that I plan, like, I don't have any limit really, but I have to work tomorrow and I start at 7 in the morning, so I shouldn't be on for too many hours, but it also depends on how many of you are active in the chat. And I have a couple of beers beyond this one, so we'll see. But probably an hour or so feels appropriate, as we're 21 minutes in right now. Salut, skål. This is a London Porter by Fuller's. It's a nice, smooth little porter. And, I have 2 Imperial Stouts lined up after that to make things more interesting. Not sure if I had a causal. I generally drink around like 200 or 300 different beers each year because I like trying different beers from different breweries. But yeah. Greetings back to Uppsala. It's a nice city. I used to be there a lot like 13 years ago when I worked with Victor of Tyranno, but I haven't been there since then. When it comes to that question about Sweden, I think that's a very deep question. I'll try to answer that more properly in another video or stream, as this chat is moving a bit faster than what I'm able to answer. So yeah. And to you who asked about my friends in Woods of Infinity, they are very close friends of mine since almost 20 years back. I met them many times. I adore them, especially as people. Really, really sweet guys. And what I do for a living is well, half of the time I'm a chef, and I worked in restaurants since I was 16, and I'm 36 now. And then, of course, I paint and record music and take pictures. So I see myself more as an artist than a chef, but that's definitely the two things that I am. And I have no clue about what DSBM has to offer anyone. I'm not interested in it. And when it comes to how I deal with being alone and how I cope with depression, I've made several hours of video about that subject the past few months. So if you're interested in that, I recommend that you watch those videos. And then if you have more questions beyond what I talk about in those videos, please leave a comment in one of those videos, and I will see that through my comments feed in the YouTube Studio page, and then I will add that to another video I think that's the best way to go about it. And I have a laptop, but I also have my video set up for the stream that I use for my videos otherwise, which allows me to connect proper phantom-powered ribbon microphones. But I'm not sure if the sound is coming from the laptop or from the microphone, because I see the levels in the camera, but for some odd reason the streaming site didn't. Let me set that up. And cheers. And I'm not sure where to move yet, but I really love the county that I live in, which is Västra Götaland, the West Gothic county. But depending on work in the future, after I finish here in September, I'm not sure where I'll end up. It depends on work. I have no idea what liberty caps are. And nature is what inspires me to create music. And one of my main methods of doing that is to take long walks, and with or without a camera. And then when I come back home, I sit down or lay down to meditate and go through the journey in my mind and all the sounds that I heard during that journey from the nature and whatever is beyond it or me. And then that becomes songs. I haven't heard that band. And yes, I would definitely consider myself a misanthrope. When it comes to a favorite meal, I'm not sure actually. That would be like having a favorite band. I think it's just important that it's, if the sound isn't as good as in the videos, then that means that I'll have to research how to set up the Rode microphone that I have so I can use it for this video, because it's frustrating for me to own equipment that isn't working. As for the guitar, well, I can show it when I take the next beer. It's a nice Hagström guitar that I looked at for a while. And I've taken plenty of benzos during my days, especially with Life Lover. That's what we used for all recordings, benzos and alcohol. And that's what started the band, pretty much. I don't recommend the combination, but I definitely have done it more times than I can count. And as for your question, Nick, about stories that I hear from fans, I definitely feel something when I hear stories. It's I think it's humbling, not always inspiring, but sometimes it reminds me that what I do is a lot bigger than me, and that we should always surpass the ego and work on that level of things, to see things from beyond your own perspective and have a more wide netcast in this universe. Aha! Yeah, I've tried Liberty Caps, but I have more experience with the different strains of cubensis that I used to grow a lot the past decade. I don't really have any opinion on Natram. Just to have a few weird email exchanges over the years, but nothing special. And I met Alex or Lera a couple of times. He lives pretty close to the studio we use for for Cal, and yeah, he's a friend to my bassist. So I've had a few talks over the years. Wonderful guy, really down to earth, interesting, and of course a fantastic guitarist. And for those of you who don't know and who are Silencer fans, he actually made the intro song on the first Cal album. So check that out for those of you who want to hear more music from that guy. Really fantastic. And I try to work out sometimes, but I always stop because it takes away time from other things that I find more inspiring. But I'll definitely try to do more work on myself in the future. And of course, when it comes to the sound quality, that all depends on what device you use. And if you have headphones, that usually improves the experience a lot. And I don't have a pet because I travel a lot, or I used to. And it wouldn't be fair to put another being into such an experience. And when it comes to memory, I have a very good memory when I'm drunk or sober, but yeah, adding benzos to the mix definitely creates some gaps. So I have not whole days that I miss, but yeah, big gaps from the Life Lover times. But we took a lot of pictures during those days, so there is always some kind of proof that we did something. And of course, the recordings. There are several songs that I don't remember doing the vocals for, and then hearing it. That was pretty fantastic. I think I don't think anything worth saying about Shining. That is my opinion. They're not worth an opinion. And I would like to work with Audrey again, but there is a reason why Haunch Emerging is postponed, because I've recorded the music and I've composed 2 more albums, which is what I have a contract with Prophecy for. But until our differences are resolved, it's going to stay on hold. And nice to see someone from New Zealand in the chat. I have a few people ordering from there. That's always nice to see. And that's about your question, Belstad. I won't even utter that disgusting band's name, but yeah, they've stolen one of my songs, and from other people too. They're a joke. They shouldn't be considered a band. for a bad joke. That's all. And yes, I always recommend meditation because there's always many different ways that you can implement it into life, and many things can be meditative. That's all about you and your perspective on how you feel relaxed or calmed. Like if there is something that makes you zone out, try finding 5, 10 or 15 minutes a day at least to do that. I don't mind dogs, but I prefer cats. Yeah, I've always liked cats. And yeah, I've had some interactions with fans that have been strange over the years at some concerts, especially when they treat me to things like LSD or other things that is better to not discuss over here. And I used to hang out with Nicholas in the past, especially when I lived together with one of his photographers. That's when we were most social, and that's where the pictures of us that were used in some interviews and other things is from that time. But I haven't met him in 8, 9 or 10 years or so. It was like I used to still talk with him on the phone when just after Jonas had died, but the last time that I met him in person was a few months before Jonas died. Yeah, well, my sister works at the local hospital here. So, of course, she's having a hard time, but she's strong as fuck. She's yeah, a wonderful, kind, caring person. Yeah, we wouldn't be a nurse otherwise, I guess. And my mother works as an art teacher and helping out at a culture place in another city about an hour from here. She's doing fine too. And I don't have any opinions on Skit Liv. I think that was just a cash grab for both of them, but that worked. Yeah, that's true. About the St. Petersburg concert, there was that and Moscow, which I mentioned briefly in the beginning of this video to another Russian viewer here, because we couldn't get through the visa process. I had my visa and my bassist, and then drummer had the visa, but my guitarist was out of the country, so he wasn't able to return to the I'm blanking on the name for the place you go to for the visa, but he wasn't able to go there, and because of that it didn't work out. But yeah, hopefully it can happen sometime in the future. Hope you have a good train ride. You can hopefully watch the rest of this later. Cheers. About the isolationist, it was a limited vinyl, but the other members in that project are a secret. So I think it's before I talk to them about it, I won't discuss it further because it was like a raw, improvised moment. a really special weekend. I have a few vinyls left at home. Should be possible to find it online somewhere. It would be strange otherwise, since almost everything is online nowadays. Nature of reality. Not sure about that, but I don't like idealism. I think that's dangerous and poisonous, because it makes it easy to discount important facts and information out there. And I've never been a materialist. The only reason I buy books is to give them away to others when I'm finished with them. And I don't really have a record collection myself. I do the same thing there, that if I'm finished with a record, I give them away. But I can't help having a lot of records since I sell them from my other projects. The only thing that I really collect is music equipment. So I can't really be against materialism, as long as it's functional and serves a purpose, I think. I didn't make this beer. Right now, I don't have any beers that I made myself, because I haven't had the money to get ingredients, as the past few months I've been living on the payments that I had from this work from August and September last year. I was saving those for until now, along with art and some other stuff. This is still the London Porter. I'm drinking a bit slower than usual, since I'm also reading and talking. Next is a brewery from Gothenburg, coming a Imperial Stout from Stigberget, which is with coffee. And when it comes to Life Lover and samples, I've answered those questions in the videos that me and Johan did about Life Lover. Yeah, I can definitely make a separate video about that. And when it comes to physical symptoms from anxiety and panic attacks, I get blurred vision, and it's hard for me to breathe, so I have to sit down or lay down. And I get misophonia as well. I already have that, but it becomes more intense. So I really can't be around people then. And yes, I haven't talked to Jon in the past year, because I had to focus all my time and energy to just surviving and creating. But yeah, I still talk to Jon. I don't really have any favorite book or author, but one of them that made a big impact on me when I first read it about 20 or so years ago is Nausea by Sartre. Really fantastic book. The language in it is very inspiring and creative. And yeah, Asperger definitely affects how I act socially, because I have the habit of always speaking my mind, and I've been kicked out of a few jobs because of that, because not all co-workers or bosses likes when you question them. And I've been a fair amount of fights because of it too. Right now I use a Roland keyboard for my ambient stuff because it has very good emulations of the Fender Rhodes piano, I think. And that's the main reason why I got it. I'm getting disturbed by the evening sky here, so I'm just going to close the curtain a bit. No, I don't regret any songs that I made in the past. That's why I released them, to show that even though they don't represent who I am now, or they don't really represent my band to 100%, in a way they still do, because they were a stepping stone to get to where I am now. So that's why it was released, so that those of you who are interested in the progress and evolution of that project can go back to the beginning and hear what my mind was like 20 years ago. Because, yeah. I wouldn't say that I believe in a God, but definitely in the divine. But it's hard to explain. But I think if you have a heart and a soul, or whatever you wish to call it, and you go out into nature and really pay attention, you should feel something divine. And whether you call that Satan or God, that's up to you. I didn't have any reaction about Mr. Petrov. I don't have anything against that band, but they never really meant anything to me. And I don't have any opinion on the artist called Maniac. I haven't met him. Met plenty of his friends, but not him yet, at least. So we'll see what the future holds. I hate money, but unfortunately, we are reliant on it in this world. I would like to do a more trade-based thing, but in a way, that's actually one of the things that I like about music and art, that it feels more like a trade, that those of you who support my work enable me to make more art and music. So I think that's very wonderful. As for medication, this is my self-medication. And then on a monthly or quarterly basis, I make sure to have access to mushrooms and cannabis. But I don't think it's useful to do those things on a daily or weekly basis. That's like a knife with a dull edge. Well, this is something I can enjoy on a daily basis without feeling bad. And I can't say anything about ghosts, but I've had some interactions with spirits, so I have to believe in my experiences. I'm going to make a video about that. And when it comes to questions about life is pain and trist, that is something that I'm going to cover in a separate video, because I have some wonderful stories about Jan, and since I have contact with him, I always have the ability to not just answer more questions that you have when you make comments in the video that I'm going to make about it, but also I can actually talk to him about it too, and add anything that he wants to add into the video as well. So I think that series of videos is going to be a great little playlist. For me, meditation is always the best thing against depression and anxiety. To lose myself in art or music or whatever you want to call it. And I used to travel with a tent a lot more in the past, but I haven't in a couple of years. So I don't do it often, but I have the equipment for it. So when I travel, I'm prepared. As for a concert, I'm planning on doing a few, both acoustic and with electric equipment and effects. And I thought that Lords of Chaos was bullshit. But I still appreciate the work that they try to do. And in the past, we used to grow weed when we rehearsed and recorded with Hypothermia in another city and county. So yeah, it's possible, but only during a few months. But you can definitely get in a decent harvest during the summer months. It gets between 35 to 40 degrees here in the summer too, just not as long as in other countries. I love back to Belgium. I've been there way too much. And that's where I learned to brew beer as well, so it has a special place in my heart. And I missed the question about my friends in Black Howling. I will just see about that. Memories or opinions? Well, it was a special time. Yeah, it's better that I cover that in a video focused on that than here. And yeah, I'm going to save all the live streams and upload them since it's a learning process. And the only reason why one of them wouldn't be uploaded is if I accidentally make an error and quit it in the wrong way, but I will make sure to do what I can to save it. When it comes again to questions about Niklas, I'm waiting for the next time that I meet my friend and bassist, because as I mentioned before, he used to be in Shining in the past. So it's better that I talk to him about it, because then it's not just me talking about someone that I used to be a really close friend to that I don't see anymore, because I don't want to feel it like it's just me being a drama queen or butthurt or something like that. It's better that me and a friend that both know him from different periods of time talk about it, because it becomes more interactive and interesting, I think. Yeah, I'm not a fan of opiates or opioids, and I don't recommend that for anyone. And it's killed a few of my friends, so that's another reason why I'm not a fan of it. And right now, Sweden is really restrictive when it comes to anything. So I'm not going to do concerts in Stockholm for a long time. But we're working on like renting some place with Cal in the autumn to record like a live video. And in the future, I will do something like that for hypothermia and consider suicide as well. At least at my house, because I'm able to record videos there, of course, professionally. And yeah, I didn't like the last two albums of Bethlehem, and I'm not against their new vocalist, but just the music didn't have the same energy or spirit for me. But yeah, I've always liked Bethlehem, and for me, dark metal has a special place in my heart. It's not my favorite album, but I don't really have any favorite album by them, but that's as close as I can think about it. Yeah, unfortunately, we have areas that people litter in nature too, and I think it's disgusting and disgraceful. I think it's so juvenile, and yeah, it's so silly that anyone would do that. I don't get it, because it's all of our home. Why would you litter in your home? That's like throwing garbage on your floor. Like, why would you do that? It's ridiculous. And yeah, I have plenty of experiences with drugs, but I think that's a better subject for a video by itself, rather than like 57 minutes deep into a live stream, because yeah, it's more likely that some people will miss it then. And I think it's a important enough subject to actually discuss in detail. So, and right here I'm trying to interact with those of you who are watching this. So I would miss too many questions if I go in depth about something right now. But I will save these comments and go through them, and if I feel that I'm missing something that I can go more in depth about, I will do a separate video where I cover some of these things in more detail, because I appreciate your interactions and questions. So I think it's only fair that I do my part. I have no idea about death or after death, but I've had several near-death experiences, and that's just made me more sensitive to different things that I feel and hear in the nature. I'm not sure about it's just I don't know this artist. It's just a generic painting, and this couch maybe looks a bit fancy, but they're not too expensive. And most of all, it doesn't belong to me. So I don't even remember when my last concert was. Definitely a long time ago, like maybe 1.5 years or so ago. Like the last one I had was in Glasgow in Scotland, I think. The year before, in the late autumn, before the pandemic hit. So yeah, when the virus, or I'm not sure if it will be over, but at least when more people are vaccinated and the restrictions are less intense, yeah, I'm definitely into the concerts with hypothermia in smaller places. And as for Funeral Doom, I don't mind it, but I don't search it out. As for a video about like life or childhood or youth, there is a longer interview with me with one of my friends that brings that subject up. But yeah, I can definitely go more in depth about that. And I haven't heard Psychonaut 4 in a couple of years. But yeah, I used to talk with them more in the past, and of course I made a mini tour with them, so I like them. They're nice people. And, yeah, I don't really have any favorite Belgian bands. Uh, I'm trying to remember it. It's lost at the moment. I will see if I remember it. And unfortunately, there used to be some Life Lover songs that was unreleased, but those are lost. So the piece that me and Johan have been working on are we're doing different styles of music each EP. So it's just like Life Lover, it's going to be wherever we want it to be. I'm just going to look a bit upwards here. Good evening and score. When it comes to autism, I can't really say right now. It's because it's a more in-depth question. As for my tattoos, I've made a video where I talk about them. I think it's easier that you watch that than get a half-assed reply from me right now, just because I'm focusing on other things as well. But of course, for me, this one is really important because it's about my main band Hypothermia, Behemoth's Orchestra. But of course, the heather on my chest is very important for me too, because it's the plant that symbolizes my county where I grew up and where I live. So that's important for me. As for my sister, we haven't really talked about the pandemic a lot because we don't meet a lot. I've just seen, like, I met her just 2 times in the past 18 months because she lives in the same county as I do, but she's busy with her family. She has 2 sons and works full time, so yeah, it's a bit complicated, but I think it would be an interesting video to discuss things with her, but yeah, we'll see in the future what happens. And yeah, when it comes to a favorite book, there are several books that were important for me as a writer, like how I think about writing lyrics and stories or manuscripts or anything. So I'm going to make a video about that in the future. Mail time videos, I think that's really interesting, but the problem is that the customs here in Sweden are rough as fuck. So that means that if you send me something, I would have to pay to receive it. And unfortunately, I'm not at a time in my life where I can afford that. I would love to do videos like that, but yeah, that would be in the future when I have like a full-time job and not just a part-time seasonal employment like I do now. It would be a too big risk right now to allow that to happen. I don't have any top Swedish black metal bands really. Can't think of any at the moment. And yeah, when it comes to the near-death experiences, I'm going to make a proper video about it because I think it's an important subject, and one of them left a crack in my skull at the back of my head, so I have a funny story about that. And yeah, unfortunately I can't read Cyrillic, so your comment there, Mr. Is a secret for all of us except you, I guess. See, and yeah, I answered the question about Horns emerging earlier, but yeah, I should make a video about that so I can at least reference it, because more and more people are asking about it. As for what genres that me and Johan are exploring or experimenting with, I think yeah, in January we recorded 4 songs, and the only reason I haven't released that is because I wasn't satisfied with my vocals, and then I had to go here. So I'm going back home next week for the 2 days off that I have. So I'm going to finish that EP then and release it so that all of you can hear it. And that's more of a odd blend of different music styles. And then the next one is more, it's hard to explain. And when it comes to the questions about psilocybin and mushrooms, I'm still working on the video series about that, which is really, really in depth. So I think you're going to enjoy that. And just to make it short, yes and no. Because fresh mushrooms have more active compounds in them. Psilocin, for example, which disappears when you dry them or cook them. So there are, of course, varietal differences, but that's the same as other plants, that each strain has different concentrations of the active compounds that creates the different effects. So because it's a plant, it can be not just from strain to strain, but also from batch to batch while you're growing something, just like any other plant, which is one of the things that makes it magical, I guess. I got a lot of wonderful memories from the Life Lover times, and yeah, I'm looking forward to share more of them. And to me, I don't think it's very painful, because yeah, I can deal with that. It's a natural part of life. Uh, um, I think the video about my tattoos is something like on tattoos or about my tattoos. And I haven't made a lot of videos on this channel, like just something are a bit more than 100 so far. So it's not too many pages of scrolling. So, and of course, in any channel on YouTube, you can search on that channel. So if you just search for tattoo, be able to find, or tattoo symbols or sigils, you should be able to find 1, 2, or 3 videos, I think. A song that brings a tear to my eye is a good question. One that is hard for me to ignore is Unison by Björk. That song can fucking destroy me. Honestly. It's a bit silly, but yeah. What you gonna do? I'm proud of just that life never happened at all, because it could have been something that we just made for ourselves and never shared. And I'm going to make a video about how it all started. So I think you will see more about that then. And I don't play any video games right now because I'm too busy with work and videos and music, but I don't mind video games. I used to play some in the past, especially in my youth. And I don't prefer either acid or mushrooms. I adore them both. And I usually drink my coffee black, just like this coffee-infused Imperial Stout. I think in the video series about mushrooms or psychedelia, I will talk about how growing mushrooms affected me as a person and an artist, and how it affected my life. But there's plenty of other places that educate you on how to grow them. So I'm not going to go into specifics about how to make them, because that could make causes and claims to have my channel removed, which is a risk I can't do or take. But I'm going to talk about how my process was, and it's kind of a nice ritual. So I think that's why it adds value to it. As for the part 2 from Rakbladsvalsen, everything is pretty close to the original length of what we recorded back then. But I'm going to do live performances of it in different ways, so I can make an extended version then. And Horns Emerging is active. I've written the albums that I have a contract for, but yeah, it's going to take the time it needs, because I refuse to release something that I'm not satisfied with. And I have a wonderful first album recorded that is instrumental because of reasons that I'm not going to go into right now, but the label doesn't want an instrumental project from me, so they don't want to release it until I have a vocalist for it. More time will tell on that, and I don't have an opinion about Alcest. I think it's generic and uninteresting, so I refuse to listen to it. And I've heard everything at least once, and yeah. it's not in my interests. But yeah, once again about Haunch merging, I'm going to make a proper video about it that I explain why it is or isn't, and so on. I have no idea who Charter is, but it was sad to hear about Chris because I've never been like an in-depth fan. I haven't listened to a whole album of Soundgarden ever, but I remember hearing some of their songs in my youth, and I found it to be intriguing and impressive in terms of production. Like, I can appreciate an artist for that without actually listening to it. For the very simple and basic reason for me is that if I don't find it to be more interesting than as a basis for analysis, I won't bother with it a second time. So I'm not searching it out. And when it comes to personal or emotional lyrics, I've written several over the years, either after breakups or times of being alone a lot, where I have a lot of time to think. So solitude brings out the deepest parts of me, for better or worse. And Jan is a fantastic, sweet, caring person. I adore him a lot. And anything else about Trist and Life is Pain is going to be a video by itself. And when it comes to vlogs, this is the closest thing I will make to it. And when it comes to like exploring and wandering, yeah, it might be something I do in the future, not actively, but partially perhaps. And yeah, I'm still good friends with Henrik, or Nachtzeit, as some of you know him. We don't meet a lot. We met like last time maybe 1.5, 2 years ago. And yeah, we SMS sometimes or write on other places. We plan on doing some videos together in the future. And I have like a hate-love relationship with Pesnar because of a personal thing that happened some years ago. But yeah, I met Ludo, and I know some of his friends. But it's like I don't really spend too much time about thinking about that. Post-rock. Well, I try to avoid listening to post-rock too much because to me that music is too easy to make, and I like a challenge. And I also don't like to have my music to be too affected by others, I like to feel inspired, but I prefer to get that feeling from nature than other artists, because I always act very critical of myself. If I feel that something I do is too similar to another project or band or artist, I either name it something as a tribute, which I made once, or I throw it away. And I don't really care about sports, but I recognize their importance in society. And when it comes to normalcy in the future, well, I'm not against it, but it's haven't been my choice to be like away from that. It's just any time that I've had a partner, they haven't been interested in it, So I've instead made my bands my families instead. It's just how it has happened over the years. And I see something about Forgotten Woods here, so I'm going to listen to that. Yeah, well, Forgotten Woods is one of my favorites, and my friend Johan had never heard them, so I showed him all of their works the past weekend when we recorded the second EP with Ritalmord. And yeah, I agree, they're very underrated and still holds up. They're amazing. And I don't mind Ulver, but I don't pay attention to them either. As for the breakup thing on Life Lover, one of my lyrics that was on Sjukdom is about that, or just heartbreak in general. And I don't know if I'm friends with Niklas, but I don't consider him anything else. Anything that bad ever said has been on his part and not mine, because he likes to create dramas and conflicts. I don't like his band, but I like him. I've always liked him, so I don't have any reason to change that, really. I know about the band Woods of Ypres, but I haven't heard them in like 15 years, so I don't really know, and I honestly don't care. And yeah, I have periods when I don't go out. Usually it's a couple of days or a week or so in general, where I just feel that if there is too much noise outside, I keep to myself. And yeah, I used to be in daily contact with the guys of Circle for Birth. Actually released one of their split vinyls on my label. Like 15 years ago. So, well, not 15 years ago. Closer to maybe 13. It was around 2007, 2008, something like that. But really sweet guys and interesting thinkers and artists. I haven't listened to Fasa, but I'll have to ask him about it. When it comes to black metal bands from Canada, I made some concerts. I can't remember. Sombre Forêt. I made a concert in Germany with them, and we have planned a Canadian and American mini tour with their other project. I don't remember the name of it right now, but really fantastic. I think Watain is completely uninspired shit. That's my honest opinion. I don't care at all about them. I think their existence is offensive. And I have mostly positive feelings about Norse paganism. I think it's an important part of our culture, but I also don't see a lot of use to include that in my projects, but it's important for philosophy. My shirt, it's the old logo of Manus, one of the most underrated Norwegian bands out there. Yeah, Miserere. Yeah, so that's a fantastic band, and I know they're very busy with like back then they were busy with work and studies and stuff like that. So we couldn't do any tours back then, but hopefully when the pandemic or stops a bit, or when people are more vaccinated, I think it's going to be a great tour. I know several so-called disciples, but that's once again one of the reasons why I think they're so fucking shallow and uninspiring, because they just stolen a term from Hells Angels and try to appropriate that culture to their own. It's so uninspiring and so mediocre. If I didn't have this great tasting beer, uh, I want to tell you more about Hells Angels because I know enough of them to get in trouble if I talk about it more than what I've already done. Uh, so yeah, it's just I think it's weird that the guys of Athena haven't been beaten up yet. But yeah, I guess people don't care about cultural appropriation when it's white people. And I'm all for that. I don't give a shit about white people either. So fuck Athena. Beer wise, I like all beer. Beer is fantastic. But I've always had a soft spot for stouts and porters. But I like a good goose as well. Like a proper goose is wonderful. And some lambics are nice too. And for some years, I used to have a really soft spot for saisons. Well, if you're a hardcore Vatane fan, why you're listening to me, go and find some boring interview with Eric instead, or just yeah, go and do something else. So a question up here that I missed. Favorite party music? I just tend to put on like Party Killers instead. Yeah, I agree. North is one of the few Danish bands that are interesting beyond Mew. I adore Mew. If you're not aware of them, you should check them out. I'm not sure about shows in the future, but we'll see what happens. And that other band that someone there is talking about now, I'm not going to say anything about that. As for listening to other genres of music, well, I've never seen a reason to limit myself to any genre, but of course it's hard to avoid sometimes to just get really into something. But I've never applied that rule to myself or anyone, that you should just listen to one style of music. I think that's juvenile, and yeah, not very intelligent. You're just limiting yourself and your experiences. And no, I'm not interested in listening to anything that was inspired by anything that I do. I don't like listening to music. If I can avoid it, I prefer creating music. I don't really like listening to music. If I'm alone, I prefer silence. I almost only listen to music when I'm around other people. And that's why I don't really have any party recommendations or music, except like the last years since Demon released her first album. I make sure to always share that to people to make sure that others also realize the genius that she is. But as for other genres of music, like I find something interesting in most, but it's all in periods of time. And if you struggle to be alone or by themselves, you shouldn't really struggle. The problem that I learned very early by forcing myself to be lonely or alone is that try to do it on your own terms, to find ways to embrace the solitude and make it your own instead of being like a victim of it. Because if you find yourself being alone and wanting to be around other people, that's the only time that it actually hurts to be alone. But you shouldn't confuse that feeling with being alone and apply that to every moment that you're not with other people, because then you just become like a empty vessel or tool for others to project something onto, and that can be really dangerous for your mental health in the long run. Yeah, I wouldn't recommend that at all. Let's see here what happened since that. No, I don't like Sochind. Generally, I don't like Denmark at all. That's why I said that North and Mu are my only tolerances. um, let's see here. I have no idea who that is. It seems like someone is a bit childish here. Well, if you care that much about someone else's opinion, then you should do whatever you want with that tattoo. It's your skin and your body, so yeah. I'm not sure about what that comment is referencing or questioning. Uh, this glass is 40 or 4 deciliters, so It's a beer of this size, and it's 12% of alcohol, so that's why I'm not drinking very fast. I enjoy all wines, but I have a soft spot for red wines, especially like a good Pinot Noir is cool. Hmm. Um, I've talked about Asperger's in some other videos, but I've spent a lot of time, of course, reflecting and being by myself, but also being forced into uh, work environments where I have to really go outside of myself. So I've learned to cope with social interactions in ways that many people with Asperger's don't. And I think that's one of the wonderful things about the restaurant business is that you are often faced with situations of high stress that you can't escape, and you really have to deal with the moment. You can't just escape. Um, and I have no idea who that artist that some of you are discussing are, but if you find a friend through this chat, that's fine, of course. Uh, yeah, I don't understand why some people would care about what someone else is listening to or not listening to. Well, if you met me, you would notice some of my like weaknesses or speak patterns, but yeah, it's a bit hard to explain in this format. But I will try to make a better video about it in the future, because I kind of brushed over it a bit in my previous video that I address it. And yeah, I plan on doing Q&A videos or videos that are interviews with some of my friends in the black metal community over the years when I have the time to travel. I still don't have a driver's license, which limits me a lot, and because previous years I've had to use that money for like repairing my house or just paying bills. So I'll make sure to get one this autumn and be able to travel to some places and some artists that I'm not able to go to otherwise. And yeah, all the Niklas questions are going to be in a video by itself. Uh, um, and well, my plan to stop this video has passed already, but I want to at least finish this beer. And of course, there's several of you joining here in the conversation, so I have a hard time to just say bye in the middle of a conversation. I'm not that deep into the Asperger's realm. I have some sensation of a social context. So as this chat is not dying down as fast as I expected it to, that's the reason why this stream is going on a bit longer than I had maybe expected. But I don't mind it, and I have a drink. I have some company or a resemblance of it. So we'll see. In the description of this video is a link to my web shop. There is some hypothermia stuff there for those of you interested and asking about it. And I say, I try to not be annoyed by people, but yeah, shallow people, definitely. And yeah, my second girlfriend in 2004 had borderline, and I happen to have that diagnosis as well. So, no. And yeah, beer definitely eats away at my paycheck, but I don't drink or buy expensive beer if I have to choose between that and paying my rent or eating. But right now, since I'm working and can expect some kind of pay in a while, and I had a birthday a few days ago, so this was one of my treats for myself. But yeah, otherwise, I think it's always more important to prioritize having good food, because that's what actually makes you live and survive. So if you don't prioritize what you put into your body, you're doing something wrong, I think. And I meditate every day. And I have no idea where I would like to live besides Sweden. I like plenty other countries, but I prefer visiting. Thanks. And thanks for the belated congratulations. It's appreciated. For some weird reason, people think that my birthday is in March because someone else has that birthday, and someone hasn't corrected it. But for the last 36 years, to my knowledge, and my parents, it has always been the 8th of May. So, cheers. And no, I don't have anything to say about NSBM really, because I'm not interested in politics. But when I used to run my own distribution in the past, I used to always stock some of the more interesting acts, I think, because to me, extremism is an aspect of black metal. So I think through that definition and reasoning, I think it does belong into black metal because it's about not having limitations. So everything extreme belongs in metal and black metal. To me, walking is a form of meditation. But for me, the most important aspect of meditation and introspective things. Sorry, the beer is getting to me. The most important aspect of the meditation comes after the walk, when you return to wherever you are returning to and reflect on the walk. But yeah, some of my more ambient music is like, yeah, meditative too. So that's what I do also for meditation. But I would never listen to others. I'm just not interested. And I don't have any NSBM recommendations right now, but I could find some. I think that's a more suitable topic for talking to one of my friends that is better at that. The song Julia was something I composed for my first girlfriend. Um, like 20 or so years ago. Uh, not very interesting story. And I prefer to not listen to music because to me it's distracting because I always analyze music. I can't listen to anything without. That's one of the aspects of my Asperger too. That I always go into all the details. So when I hear a song, I don't just hear a song. I hear the different patterns, and I go into the details of how you are using each instrument and how it's produced and what effects are used and so on, because I can hear every detail in a song, and yeah, it just becomes, it feels like homework instead of enjoyment in those cases. And if I'm outside, I listen to nature because that inspires me to compose. It would be a waste to listen to something else. Uh, and I've met some of the guys of those projects, but I prefer to not know them further than that. Um, as for exes, I'm not sure really. I've been friends with some of them, but over time, uh, it becomes more of an obstacle. Uh, and to me, that's not like on an emotional level. That's more like usually there are reasons why you're not what you used to be. So trying to cling on to that can become very destructive. So yeah, it's a difficult subject. But as for what's being commented after that, of course, yeah, if there is enough of you interested in a video where I talk about something like that, sure, I can make a video about it. I'm not sure about hippies. That's a matter of definition, I guess. And I'm not sure about X's. And it depends on how you count and what you take into account. But like real serious ones, like maybe 5 or 6. And yeah, I plan on making collaborations in the future with some people that I think are interesting. And self-doubt is very good, I think. It keeps you grounded. So I don't really think about it. It's like many other things in life. It's something that you just do. Um, Mountains are nice. I'm on top of one right now. It's about 380 meters above sea level, or whatever else is. You can see pretty far from here. It's cool. I haven't been to many mountains in the past. Just been to Mount Rainier outside of Seattle. Um, as for best or favorite tour experience, there has been some comments in the past like weeks about talking about like touring. So I'm going to make a video about that, and that will be included in that. And as for what happened to Italmord, yeah, me and Johan are working on it. The previous member, he and I didn't get along. No, I've never heard the Rasputin reference before. Um, uh, so I just need to run to the bathroom very fast because I want to have another beer, and it feels weird to stop this stream and then start another one. So I'll get back to you as fast as possible with another beer. Cheers. Sorry about that. But to be fair, I had a few beers before this stream. It would be really sad if I had to go to the bathroom after just 2 beers. I don't have any contact with Emil, but I've met some of his other bandmates from Old Swordmaster. Since I have plenty of friends in Gothenburg in that metal scene. And unfortunately, I can't really recommend any labels because my experiences have been weird. And yeah, this is the first live stream that I'm trying, and that's how I discovered that the camera I'm using here doesn't work with the microphone that I have over here. So I will try to search around the internet and find a solution for that. And yes, indeed, pissing is important. And yes, I've tried ecstasy. I don't mind it. As for being a perfectionist, yeah, I used to struggle with that a lot in the past, and that's why one of the reasons why I started to do live recordings with hypothermia is to release some of that and to crush that part of my ego, to remove that barrier from myself and the music that I compose or manifest, because there is always a limit to the control that you have over what you do. And it's not just about your own equipment and how you execute the songs, but also every amplifier and microphone will take up what you do in a different way. And there is always another addition you can make to the process to make it more complicated and take more time, so that you're never finishing an album or song ever if you go into the details of that. But that's why I started to do something so minimalistic and primitive, to just set up a few microphones in a room with the equipment, to force myself to be fine with whatever we got. And I think that's why also improvising is very important. See what else is happening here. On musical skills, yeah, I'm self-taught in all instruments that I know something about. But then over time, of course, I do research about equipment. So I'm finding ways to become better, but most of it is through not others' experiences, but my own, because I'm the only one that makes music the way that I do my music. Because I'm the only one that really knows what I want. So the best way to do that is by, whenever I get new equipment, is to immerse myself in it for whatever equipment I use it with. So for example, if I have effects pedals that I use for the keyboard or synthesizer or guitar, I do everything I can with or without loopers and other effects, and see how they interact together. And there are so many different things and aspects that you can implement into that workflow to really get a deep sense of what you can do with that, which is really important, I think. For me, Hypothermia is always my favorite band. It's my reason why I exist. It's why I live, and it's what I live for. I wouldn't be here without Hypothermia. And the moment that I'm finished with Hypothermia, I'm gone. We had planned a vinyl version of the split with Black Howling, so that's the only reissue or whatever you want to call it of that. But as it was an improvisation, unfortunately I don't really remember it. I can try to relearn it someday, but it's not really in my priorities, because I have like close to a dozen composed albums to focus on instead. And yeah, there's plenty of equipment that I would like to have, find new things every year. But and it's the only thing that I spend money on beyond food. As for the weird vocals on my split with Aska, it's one of my female friends back then. Because she had been through some traumas, and yeah, that's her story, so I'm not going to go through the details with that. But she tried to kill herself, and I felt back then that it might be my last chance to do something with her, so I invited her to do guest vocals on one of my songs, and that's why she's on that song. And yeah, I adore David Firth. And we actually watched a lot of his old videos back before we made the first Songs of Life Lover. Like we had the Milkman video on repeat while we drank whiskey in the night while bleeding. And that was the first time that I met Jonas. I like bands like King Crimson, but I don't listen to them. I don't mind them, but as many other things, like just because I don't listen to it doesn't mean that I'm against it. I just don't. It's not a priority of mine to listen to others' music. About black metal vocals, I had to force myself, so that's how you do it. Yeah. Because in my youth I was almost mute. Like I spoke so soft and quietly because I was shy as hell and very uncertain about myself. And people would always ask me to speak up or repeat myself. So and I still have like a complex about that. And that's why I try to speak clearly and not ramble too much or add sounds or noises or additive words that don't serve a purpose. I don't care about Agalok, but I don't mind them either. And I think this is opening another well to madness. As I finished one 12% beer, and now we have another 12% beer here. Can't help it. Well, seem to have a clever cat there. I'm not interested in making like a biography, but I have some interesting stories and ideas for books that is more like philosophy oriented. And one of my friends and I are working on a manuscript for like a movie that will be about my music and my art and my philosophy. So there will be like a documentary and some kind of book in the not too distant future, I guess. As for advice to people with Asperger's, well, I think that's better to be saved also in another video where I talk a bit more about that. And I'm not too familiar with art, though my mother teaches it, and I've been active in it my whole life. But yeah, it's just like with music that I think it's interesting and I appreciate it, but at the same time, I'm so it's like some people call it a part of an ego, but to me it's not, because to me it's just a distraction that I don't need, and I don't want to risk contaminating my manifestations with some others. So that's why I avoid art by others. And it's not personal, it's just part of my practice and my lifestyle. And if you don't like that, like some other guy earlier in the chat, well, that's your problem and not mine. It's partially alcohol related, but no, I'm not a nihilist, but I used to be in my youth. And at one of my previous workplaces, I used to be a host for buffets for 1,500 to 2,000 people. where I'm in charge of describing the menu and making sure that anyone with an allergy has access to whatever they can eat, and that everyone knows what's in anything in the menu. And that, like I mentioned earlier, how I view music and art, how I going through the details of everything. I do the same with food. I have like a long list because I know every process, how you cook something, and what every ingredient and every step into making something is. So that's why I can seem comfortable doing something like this, because, of course, I hope that the majority of those of you who are writing in the comment field here or in the chat are someone that wants to talk to me, so I'm comfortable to talk to you. But yeah, this is like one of the therapists or psychologists that I met used to say that she was always surprised to hear about how I view myself, because to her, as a professional, I'm socially capable. Like I have social skills, but I can also be bad to implement them, because my instinct is to move away from people. But I have the ability or access to being social. Even though I'm uncomfortable with being social, I can make it into something else. And now some of the things are disappearing here. I will definitely not be here in 5 hours, as I need to get up for work in a couple of hours. But yeah, I'll definitely at least finish this beer. It would once again feel weird to just disappear into it. And I'll see what was said a bit above here. And of course, I'm always happy to hear that someone has used of my art or music. It's nice to hear. And I wouldn't say that I'm inspired by cities or industrial stuff, but it's different than nature, because sure, emotionally it leaves an imprint. So I will in turn be inspired by what I felt from that. But it's different. It's a different kind of inspiration. So yes and no. And no, I haven't read that book, but it sounds interesting. But if I would read every book about something related to mushrooms or psychedelia, I wouldn't have time to make videos like this or make music. Absurdism is fine. And I'm not doing anything in Trist, but I do things with Trist sometimes. Not right now, but in the past, and we see what happens. And well, I wouldn't say that I like a fixed twin or Boards of Canada. I've heard them like 15, 20 years ago. But like many other things, it's just, I don't have the time for it right now, but I'm not against it. And I'm aware of Siddhartha, but I haven't read it. And I don't really have a preference of clean or distorted guitars, because it depends a lot on what kind of mood that you're trying to amplify. But if I would have to choose, I would say clean, especially acoustic guitar in that aspect, because in many cases, clean electric guitars can sound shitty if you don't have the right effects on them. As for my opinion on Attila, I've heard him soundcheck on his first return to the Mayhem concert in Oslo, and that was pretty interesting because that's when I made a stage show with Shining. And that's one of the reasons I get weird questions, I guess, beyond some other photo sessions. But I'm not against Attila in any way, but like many other vocalists or metal bands or musicians, I don't have the time and don't really care. And that's not a personal thing, that's just me. Just like he probably have never heard of me or never really reflected on even meeting me. Like, who cares in the end? Like, we have our own lives. We are busy with things. Like, perfect Sunday. Any day of the week doesn't matter to me. It's annoying that this chat doesn't have like a smaller button to just get down a bit, because I always miss a few paragraphs or questions. I think sleeping is overrated, and pissing is more important than sleeping to me. And whoever the blue strawberry is, I'm happy to hear that. I think maybe I was somewhere between 11 and 13 when I started composing anything, but I wouldn't really call it composing, because that was more like a reaction to other music that was around me back then. So I'm not sure. But then I started to make more proper compositions or manifestations around 14 to 16 years old. And I became more aware of how a guitar worked when I was 14. So I took some classes in my youth, and I despised that teacher, because she was very limiting in the way that she thought how to play guitar. Like specific chords, like what you do with different chords. So to me, it was liberating to learn that and really immerse myself into making my own chords. And I don't know the names of anything that I'm playing. And I'm sure that there are proper names for everything that I do. I just don't have a fucking clue about what I'm doing. I'm just doing what feels right and natural to me. And as always, if you don't like that, there's plenty of other people that you can follow instead. Like that Vatane guy. If you want someone giving you a formula for how to be a true devotee and what to buy and how to think, what to wear and how to act, yeah, buy their books. Go for it. Fucking cheap. If you don't like what I say, I've told you where I work. You know where I am. Come. See what happens. You're not the first one, and you're not the last. Fucking posers. I don't hate cities. I just prefer nature and the countryside But I can see some beauty in bigger cities too. Like I like Mexico City. I like London. I like Seattle. I like Portland. And sure, they may not be major cities. Uh, like Paris is fine, but it's overrated as an example. Um, Vancouver was wonderful, as I said before. And I'm aware that I have fans in China, and I was supposed to tour there several times, but every time the tour gets cancelled or postponed, especially now. uh, and I've answered my thoughts on Vari in another video before. And as for Sioran, I think it's I've read some of his books, and I think they're very juvenile and childish. There are, in terms of poetry or writing, it can be it's written in an interesting way, but I think it's just generally very shallow and uninteresting and very like too obsessed with like the ego and his own view of the world, and it's a bit childish. It's not for me. Uh, the damn chat skipped too much when I try to get down here. Let's see here. I'm not against poetry, but I just like many things, like with other, yeah. Uh, I have no awareness. I'm just unaware. I'm ignorant. I can't help it. I'm definitely more logical than emotional. And thank you. I learned English first through school, of course, but because I don't like the way that teachers create classes and tests, I would borrow books from the library, and through reading different things, if there is words that you don't know, you can often figure out what it means through context. And then if you don't get it through that, you can simply look that word up in a dictionary, and then you get a deeper meaning and knowledge of the context and what's being said or written. And that's how I have deepened and evolved my vocabulary over the years. And of course, through touring for over a decade, uh, I've been in many countries where I, of course, need to speak English, and over the years, also through running my own web shops and record labels, I need to speak English or write in English. So it's important to know a lot. So most of it I've taught myself. Uh, see here, effect pedals for guitar. For guitar, it's a lot harder than synthesizer because they are more specific to different frequencies. Um, yeah, I love a good reverb, but like one of the I don't use it on a lot of recordings, but for composing, it's a good tool Like there is a wonderful weird glitch pitch affecting unit that does some sampling too, called Grazer by Dwarfcraft, and that's really fun to use for exploring different layers on the guitar. Um, then I like a good chorus or vibrato effect. And when it comes to more ambient stuff, I like what the hologram is doing. And I have both the infinite jets and the microcosm to dive deep into stuff. Let's see here. As for where I would live outside of Sweden or where I wouldn't live, I would never live in Denmark because that. I'm sorry, your language is disgusting, and any food or beer you have is a worse version of anything that exists in other countries near you. Like if you want a better sandwich or a better beer, you can just go to Germany or Sweden instead in just like 1.5 to 2 hours. So get your shit together, Denmark. I would never live there. I would rather do something really bad. I could live in Norway or Iceland or Canada or the US or Mexico. Probably somewhere in Asia, I'm not sure where. I don't know any martial arts, but I would like to. As for guitars, I've sold a few during the last years. Right now I have like 3 acoustic ones, and of course a bass guitar, and 2 electric guitars. But I only use one of them because one is from like 20 years ago and it needs repair and I can't afford fixing it. Unfortunately, I don't know anything about mastering. I suck at it. I'm good at mixing. I'm pretty good at mixing to create like a profile or feel. But for mastering, I usually pay one of my friends to do it for me. I just been to Finland once and I liked it. I look forward to returning. And on my Mac, I use Logic, and on this computer that I see the feed through, I use Reaper. And that's what I used in my friend's place when I recorded with Consider Suicide too. I have no idea who you are, Jack, but if you have a hypothermia patch that you didn't buy through eBay, because that is most definitely then a bootleg, then you have the permission. But honestly, I don't give a fuck. I don't give a fuck about patches. But I do have logo patches in my web shop, so if you want to support me, check it out. Red or blue pill? I have no idea, man. All the pills. Hey. And cheers. Damn, this stream is starting to get long. I'm sorry to those of you who may expect it at hour one. I didn't plan on it getting this long, but I keep getting questions and I feel it would be weird to not answer them. Novels I like. I have no idea. Intig. Yeah, I met him. sweet guy. And well, that's a long word, Mr. Mr. or Mrs. Blueworm. Eichhörnchen Geflüster. I used to study German from 3rd to 9th grade, but I usually went home to smoke and drink coffee instead. So it's been a while. I can read German, but I can't speak it really. So sorry if that's wrong, but yeah, I'm a bit distracted at the moment and not completely sober, to be honest. Yeah, I should visit Chile or Argentina. I've met several sweet people from there. And yes, I do plan on touring when the quarantine is over. Because just when the pandemic hit, I had planned tours in both Europe and China and Asia and Mexico that all had to be postponed. So I really hope that I can continue those. Let's see what that. Here's one that feels like it could be more of a video by itself. So you who call yourself leprosus in this, this is a bit too much for me to think about at the moment, so I will address that in an actual video by itself or in the May Q&A. So sorry if you feel passed over. I don't mean that. Just that there is a bit much happening right now, and your question deserves proper time, so I will give it that at another day. And I don't have any feeling about sculpting or carving when it comes to art. I'm not against it, but I still have a lot to learn in other ways. And yeah, I try open tuning in different projects as a composition tool. I haven't recorded with it yet, but there is an upcoming EP with Ritual Mood, where we're making more of a funeral folk or neo folk. Like if you think about something like Old Boyd Rise, something like that, or Of the Wand and the Moon, one of the other Danish bands that isn't complete garbage, though I'm not interested in it at all. Well, you say that, but like I had offers to perform in Denmark, and honestly, and they know this too, I when they ask me for my requests, I give them the double. So I always say them the double amount of money and other things in the backline, just to make sure that if I'm going to perform in Denmark, they're going to suffer more than I do. I don't have a MIDI mixer. No, I have no idea what that is actually. I didn't used to get into fights really, but I've been in my fair amount of fights just because I'm too honest, and especially if I'm drunk, I don't give a fuck. So I've had people jump me a couple of times because they know that I'm not like straight edge or that I do different drugs and things like that. Yeah, it's weird. But I also come from a smaller, like I grew up in a smaller countryside town with like 10 to 13,000 people who has a normalized idea of alcohol. But the moment that you do mushrooms or weed, as an example, you're going to get your ass kicked. It's like the jocks versus nerds thing, kind of. Damn it, now it skipped over some things. How I live during life flower. I was like couch surfing. But I never had my own apartment during those years. I either lived with friends or just traveling and touring and stuff like that. Uh, and yeah, I would. Uh, I haven't just considered touring in the US. I've planned it several times. Just been postponed and cancelled because of different things. And yeah, I don't have an opinion on of that in generally. I used to listen to them a bit in the past, but I don't care. And yeah, I will still do the live stream on Saturday because I will try until then to find a way to incorporate my actual microphone then. And if I can't figure it out until then, I will at least be able to talk about some other stuff. Because, of course, as you notice, those of you who have been here for a while, um, I'll try to answer as much as I can about yeah, what I'm seeing here. And yeah, uh, in this live stream, I won't be talking about occultism, but I can definitely make another video about it. And that's like some many other things that I happen to have more or less knowledge about is that I know other people that are very immersed in some subjects or that know a lot about things that I don't. So to me, I think it's interesting to invite those people to make like an interview or a feature video to really uh, get more in depth about some of those topics. And that's why I don't speak about some things a lot. And that doesn't mean that I'm against it. It's just that it happens to be not a priority or something that it can even be a priority, just that I want to make sure that I give the subject uh, justice. But yeah, I will make a stream on Saturday and address anything missing here, or also just see who of you are turning up there and continue where we're leaving here. And as for Germany as a country, I'm neither in or out. I don't really care. I like performing there, but because it's so close to Sweden, the problem is that I've been there so much. Like I've definitely done way over like 30 to 40 shows there the past decade. And yeah, it doesn't feel like it's not on top of my priorities, but I still have requests to go there, so I will. Yeah, I will never stop going to Germany. Yeah. And of course, it has beer, cheap beer, and I like to drink, and I like to drink a lot. So I will never say no to going to Germany. Let's say it like that. Life Lover cover bands? I think that sounds like a bad joke. There's only one Life Lover. Well, Denmark, I have no idea why they don't have a good metal scene compared to Norway, but one reason is, I think, because they've always been like in the middle of things. They're always getting occupied and no one really cares about them. But one reason why I think Norwegian metal or black metal is so much better is that they come from a harsher climate and more smaller villages. So you are forced to think for yourself in a different way. And of course, the nature in Norway is so much more spectacular and wonderful, which plays a big part in it too. And once again, I consider the people of Psychonaut 4 to be nice people, and my mini tour with them was a good experience. And I've used to talk to them over the years, and yeah, we always get along. I can't say a lot more. And when it comes to touring in Sweden, the problem is that I've done like concerts in Gothenburg and Falun and Umeå, and there are just so much less people coming to those concerts, and I can't afford the travels with my members living in different countries and just having that loss, because it shouldn't need to be a charity. And I'm not saying that I require or demand a profit on what I do, but I shouldn't have to expect a loss, right? Is that too much to ask? I'm very live, yes. The Medusa. Why would someone ask about that? He's from my old hometown, and he almost ran me over when I was 12. So you should thank the devil that I wasn't murdered by a Medusa. And yes, I'm being real. It's a small world. Those naked pictures of me, well, those are connected to some other things. And yeah, it's me and Niklas doing speed and drinking wine and just having a good time. I don't really give a shit about that. To me, it was just a fun evening. Because I was helping out one of my friends to during a photo shoot, and he had some ideas that required more people, and I simply volunteered. And I'm neither against or for Vreeswijk. I neither live in Stockholm or Jönköping. I live away from them. But right now, where I'm working and where this is being recorded, it's closer to Jönköping. And no, I won't listen to Agalo. I've heard them in the past, and it's too similar to other things that I do, and I can't risk being influenced by something similar to what I do, because I want my vision to be and remain pure. And sorry if that offends anyone. It's just how I work, and if you like it in another way, yeah, there's other authors you can follow instead. When it comes to send a question with a donation, I would like to make that an option, and I've seen that through other people's streams. I'm not sure how to set that up, but I will research it for the future, since I'm working here for over 3 months more, and I will try to do this at least twice a month. So we'll see what we can do about it in the future, to make it more of a Q&A rather than a ramble like this. And once again, sorry for going into that. It just happens sometimes. I haven't had this beer in a year, so it's nice to explore it once again. It tastes a lot more of chocolate than coffee than I remembered. It's a lot of fun. Yeah, if a harsher climate makes better music, Arctic people should make the best metal. The problem is, like maybe some of you have noticed in my videos, when I'm outside playing guitar, that when your fingers freeze and the guitar neck and the strings become cold, you can actually play it. So on a mental state, on that aspect, yes, as a composer or artist, you have a good foundation to become a really interesting artist, but it's not the best environment for that kind of, or any kind of composing, except maybe piano and synthesizers you can use even though your fingers are fucking freezing, while a guitar is impossible, unfortunately. And to Shinchu, I ship worldwide. Doesn't really matter. It doesn't cost any. For the past like 5 years, they removed the difference between Europe and overseas. So for me, it costs the same to ship anywhere. But I've noticed that in some countries, your customs are fucked up. So I would recommend that if you're ordering for more than like 20 euros, like if you're ordering more than one shirt, for example, to actually get the insured packaging, because if your postal service is fucked up or corrupt, at least then we can file a complaint with them, because we have a tracking number and we get our money back. Favorite anime? I watch my fair share of that, but I can recommend that to anyone, actually, because it's beautiful, both in visual terms and the soundtrack, and that's Mushishi. And it's about a man that travels the countryside and wilderness and exploring different spirits. It's fantastic, and there is 2 seasons and a movie. Everyone should watch it. It's amazing. In what country do I think I have most fans? I have no idea. I know it used to be Mexico a few years ago. I have no idea what it is right now. Like at least according to like statistics on Facebook, it used to be like 40% or something like that, which is insane. But it's also the only country where I've seriously had 3 to 4 hour long lines for a meet and greet. As I told you, it's different. Philosophy, I don't know enough about it to make a statement, unfortunately. I used to know more about it a few years ago, but I've been so focused the last year or two about other things. Well, I hurt myself sometimes when I do vocals, but because right now I don't do what I usually do, but if I'm alone or at home, I always walk around making different sounds and vocal exercises, like a very, very silly person. And a way to, like, you should know or feel it when you're recording something, or even when you're talking, you feel how your body and the vocal cords interact and how they are strained. And if you don't pay attention to that, you can be in big trouble fast. But you should start paying attention to what you feel here as a first step, because then you can start adding steps. And then you start feeling how far you can push yourself. It's hard sometimes to follow the comments here. Good night, Eric. I'm not interested. Well, I don't mind poetry, but I'm just not interested in it. And painful, desperate matters to make music. Well, I can't really say. It's hard for me sometimes to make music or create something when I'm hurting. I haven't been near Northern Lights, unfortunately, yet. I plan to be in the future. And yeah, once again, I like cats. And I'm aware of super chats, but I'm not sure how it works or how to implement it. But yeah, I'm going to research it until the future and see what we can do about it. And the beer I'm drinking right now, it's the KBS Kentucky Bourbon Stout from Founders. It's a nice imperial stout. And of course, I have more beer laying around, but that's what I have at the moment. And see what else is happening in the chat here. And no, I don't boil strings. That's a bassist game. I always have like a dozen string packs laying around. And I think religion is, I understand why people feel that they need it or why it gives them meaning. But also philosophy should be more important. Like if you really think about things, you should be able to sense and get a sense of who or what you are in this world. And both spirituality and philosophy can become entwined as you do this. And religion is just like a shallow blanket kind of thing for all of that. Like it's a cheat code if you, for those of you who don't pay attention to real life and spirituality, because you rely on others' reflections rather than your own. And of course, that doesn't have to be a bad thing. There's plenty of value in religion if you know where to look, just like in occultism. Um, I like Prague, and yeah, the gig there was fantastic. Aside from that, my pedal board broke, so I lost effects due to a power error for a lot of money. But yeah, that's irrelevant. Fuck money after all. Um, it was a good show and good organizer, good times, good beer, good weed. Yeah, it was a nice time. And I've been to Prague a couple of times before and after that. I like it. Not sure what the weeb is. Uh, and yes, Mushishi is the best. There are a couple of other ones that are really fantastic, but just if we're going to like when it comes to both a soundtrack and the visual aspects of it, you can't really go any deeper or higher than that. Um, and yeah, I think a live stream is the wrong platform to go through that, but I'll try to make a video about it too in the future, because I used to have a few years in my youth when I was in such a state that I just couldn't stand people. And to me, uh, as an example, hearing Japanese makes it feel less human, as well as seeing a cartoon or anime. So that I would only be comfortable with watching cartoons in other languages, because that made me feel more disconnected or less connected to humanity. So that was the only way that I could relax while I was awake 2 or 3 days or nights in a row while copying and dubbing tapes for my web shop and so on. I'm starting to run out of beer, so I hope you have some understanding that we're ending this live stream pretty soon. Because if I just continue making this really long, they will start losing their importance, I think. I'm not sure. And as for biomes, no, I'm not sure. But yeah, personal questions are like, I'm not against them. So ask it. And if I don't have anything to say about it, I will tell you. That's the best way to do it. I think one of the reasons why black metal may be so popular in Mexico is because it's a country that used to a lot of defiance, like it's based on it. So any revolt is intriguing and mesmerizing. So it's only natural that you would immerse yourself into that. And Liam, if you knew any of the other bands that I've been in the past, you would know that I've done tours with them in the past. So yes, but they're a joke. So I'm not going to mention them by name for several reasons. And yes, I've done concerts in Italy, and we released the second album of Cal last year, and we're working on the next one. Plenty more to come. And yes, I love Geneva. I prefer gin, but I don't mind Geneva. You should watch all episodes of Mishishi. It's fantastic. And yes, I love Lambics. I don't mind IPAs, but the problem with many IPAs is that they tend to become generic. And I know how to make a good one, so it becomes frustrating for me as a brewer to know when people are taking shortcuts or just using a hyped strain of hops because they know it will sell, or if they just make a double or triple IPA instead of a good, solid, proper IPA, or those. Like a few years ago, there used to be a lot of breweries making session IPAs instead of just calling it a pale ale, which it actually is. It's all marketing and buzzwords. It's disgusting and silly, but that's the world. And as for the Twilight or Leviathanic Liturgia promotion bullshit that's happening in the chat, well, fuck you. I have those albums in my web shop as well, which is linked in my description down below. Why wouldn't you buy it from the actual artist behind it? And if you're here just to make some promotion, yeah, you're blocked. Fuck you. This is not a place to make promotion for whatever. And yeah, my opinion on religion in schools, I'm not a fan of it because I used to have that in my past. Like in my second grade, our math teacher forced us to pray before and after class and thank God for giving us math, as an example. The 90s, man. And yes, this is the first live stream. I think it's in the title, and yeah, it's a test just to see if the equipment, how it's working, and how the chat is working, and just to teach me what I can do to make the next ones better. Because I'm aware that I'm maybe making some mistakes here, and as you noticed, some of you have been here for a while, that I'm maybe offending some people and saying some shit or bullshit. And some directions. And I honestly, like, this is just like what I would be like if you would meet me in person. That I'm just going to say what's on my mind. I have no reason or excuse to be anything else. Because if I can't be myself, who should I be? That doesn't interest me. That's not a question, that's rhetorical. Let's see here. I don't watch. I wouldn't say that I watch other, like, it depends on your definition. That I watch several like comedians when it comes to like live streams or like podcasts and stuff like that. But yeah, it depends on time. And as for the question about encountering people while playing guitar or other things outside, yeah, when I recorded my videos for my ambient drone album Höstkärn with my project, The Symphony to the Void, there was a family bicycling on the road next to the forest I was in that stopped to watch me dancing in the forest, which was a bit odd. But nothing has happened while playing guitar so far. Thoughts on Lithuania? I love Lithuania. The festival, I would like to go there, and I really like bands associated with it. But because of what I did with my friends, I'm not really popular in that area because they wanted to imprison me. But then I returned after that to other places and nothing happened really. So I'm not sure about that. So we'll see what happens in the future. I've never heard of that term. Science. Well, when it comes to physics and chemistry in school, I used to be very uninterested. But this is something that I'm covering a bit more in my videos about psychedelia, because psychedelia and cooking taught me that chemistry has such a bigger component into our life than what we realize. Like, there's so much chemical reactions. So physics and chemistry is so much more than what it may seem like. Like, unfortunately, many, like, if you have a bad teacher in school, you may receive like a faulty or negative version of what it is. And that's what I got when I was younger, unfortunately. But then when I started growing mushrooms and taking mushrooms, I started learning, and also brewing beer and making wine. I started learning more about how different chemical reactions worked, and that's also what made me a better painter as well, because I learned how different things interact on paper or canvas, and how you can get different reactions by combining different ingredients in different ways. And I think that's a beauty of science and nature. If you can ask me personal questions, well, everyone else is, so sure, why not? I'm not drunk yet, but I'm working on it. As you can hear, I'm a bit, maybe, because I've had 2 different 12% beers and something else. Let's see here. Does it bug me that people think or link me with life and hypothermia? Well, that's just normal, I think. It just happens with things. Circle tattoo on my arm. This one, that's Forgotten Woods. And this is my first tattoo. I made it 2 days after recording Rockroads Falsen and Sköld. And Jonas B of Lifeflower was in the same room with me during that tattoo and recording. So in the logo originally, almost 30 years ago, is the FW, I mean, of Forgotten Woods in here. So as a tribute to black metal and nature, I got this. Let's see what else is happening here. And as for tattoos, well, once again, I made a video about it, but I don't mind making another one more in depth, because I think I made some about more symbols and some about like what I have here and like what this symbolizes and what these things are about. But I think, yeah, it's hard for me to talk too much about it, because I spend a lot of my life about trying to get away from myself and talking about myself. So it feels weird to talk about myself, but yeah. I'll see what I can do. Um, I have no idea who's that was. No, I haven't made a single song or album that I'm most proud of. And how I see addictions or deal with them. How I see it is, if it benefits you or hurts you, that's an important distinction to make. And you should deal with them accordingly. Like, try to find ways where it can, does it make or break you, and take it from there. Yeah, and I have been in touch with John, but not keeping in touch because I'm bad at that. That's not personally. I love John, but yeah, it's just when it comes to anyone that knows me, and he's one of those people, he knows that it's not a personal thing that I'm not writing him immediately when he writes me. He knows that I will get back to him when I have the time and energy to have a proper conversation. And no, there will never be Life Lover songs again. That has happened in the past. And yes, Forgotten Woods are great. I know about Volcanas, but I've never heard them. I don't care. Um, I know what neurotransmitters are, but that's not all I'm talking about. But, of course, it's an aspect of it. And yeah, I like catatonia. Yeah, and Jonas had a life of that too. He got it like 1.5 years before he died. That was the only tattoo he had. And the pan hanging on the wall, I'm not sure if it represents anything except that this is the ceiling or the attic floor of a restaurant that I'm working at right now. So to me, it doesn't represent anything, but like many other things here, it's just a part of the decoration. So that's why it's here. Because right now I'm working at a restaurant, and that means that it will sometimes have decorations related to restaurants. Favorite ambient artist? I'm not sure, because I don't listen to a lot of music. Uh, I would consider Diamond to be ambient. So Diamond. Her album is available on Bandcamp. You can support her through that, and you can also buy her CD or vinyl through my webshop. Diamond Nektir. Fantastic album. Definitely one of my top 10 albums of the last decade. And I'm being serious there. And yes, I'm at work. Um, this year I'm living on top of the restaurant where I work, because otherwise I wouldn't be on time, because I start work early in the morning and I live over 2 hours away from here. So I wouldn't be able to travel here each day or evening to be on time. Yeah, I'm on a restaurant or in a restaurant. Um, Another video, we're going to invite some guests and be on the terrace or patio. And I will talk to my boss and see if he will allow something else. And yeah, I've heard of Archon Satani in like a long time ago, but yeah, as many other things. Um, nah, I don't have the time. And no, I don't really get recognized often. Like if I'm in bigger cities, I do. Like I've been recognized several times in Mexico and in Belgium and Germany and things like that, but not here in Sweden. Swedish people are more reality TV focused, unfortunately. What town do I live in? Right now, where my house is, it's like 10 kilometers outside of Herrljunga, which is like an hour from Gothenburg, and also like 1.5 hours from where I am now, outside of Jönköping. And yeah, I like beer a lot. Um, it's one of the few things that I will refuse to give up in life, if unless I have a knife to my throat or gun to my head. And yeah, I will be in Germany when I can do a tour again. I won't go to a separate thing. We'll see. And I don't think it's either good or negative to be alone. It's just a part of life, and it's important to take it for what it is. And it's not always your choice or your. Yeah, it's so much more than that. Uh, I'm 36. And as the share is dying down a bit, I think it's starting to make more sense to continue this live stream on Saturday, just to see how many more people are maybe available during a weekend rather than a weekday. But yeah, because I need to work in about 6 hours from now. But yeah, it doesn't really matter. I can work like it's only 10, 12 hours. Advice for educating friends on being out of touch or left alone. Well, I think that's always hard because I still struggle with that too. Because the people tend to misunderstand me when I'm distant, and it's not always a choice. It's just a part of who I am or what I am. And I think, yeah, you should. If you feel unsure about how you should explain to your friends who or what you are, uh, try to spend some time on reflecting on that, like who you are and what your goals are for life and your own evolution, and try to just be honest with them about that and talk to them and see what they. Maybe you can learn something from each other, you know. And nah, I don't really watch or like movies. I don't mind movies, but it's just like anime that I have periods of time where I watch it. And cheers to Ravneskrik. I'm not sure who of those people you are, but I love the people of Logia Negra, and also the people of Black Hate and Hector. Really, really wonderful people. And I have no idea if you should try to work in Sweden or somewhere else when it comes to cooking, because it's really hard to find work here. It's very specific. Like I have close to 20 years of experience, and I still get denied a lot of work positions that I know that I'm overqualified for. So it's fucking bullshit. Like a lot of work. So unfortunately, I can't give you good advice when it comes to working, especially in the restaurant proficiency and so on. Just try to find a place where you feel that you are getting something out of it. And no, I haven't watched that show. To me, it sounds a bit too cartoonish, too childish. We'll see. Maybe in the future. And to me, it's not about getting sleep, but this stream is long, and I don't. I start to feel like I have less to add at the moment. And as for longest time sober, maybe 1 year or so. Like when I was with my first girlfriend, her parents had some tendencies with alcohol, and so does mine. So, out of respect and care and love, I took the whole time I was with her to be without alcohol. And yeah, but I prefer life with it for many reasons. And yeah, I usually meet people when I meditate in the forest, but usually not when playing in the forest. Um, and I play video games. Not right now, but I used to in the past. And I will try to make this available to watch afterwards. I'm not sure how the functions are. Like, the only reason why this wouldn't be available afterwards is if I accidentally click on the wrong button and this doesn't get re-uploaded to my channel. But and if that happens, I will make sure to learn what to do to make sure that it works and it gets re-uploaded for the next times. So we'll see what happens. And study, well, that's a matter of context and perception. I I went to the 9th grade of school, then I stopped because I started working instead and then making music. And it's not bright outside here. I have a lamp in the window. It's completely dark outside because the thing with cameras, as you may know, is that if you don't have a light nearby, it will become grainy, and I will get to like 240 pixels instead of 1,000. So yeah, no opinion on summoning. And as for Jonas, well, I can't really talk about that right now, at least. How did you get there? Well, you should know that. How to make my wine, or how did I make my wine? Well, I studied what berries and what plants have different capacities to make fermentation, and then you experiment by adding different amounts of yeast and sugar and water to see. Like, of course, the ideal version is to just have the juice from the berries or from the fruit, and then ferment that with a yeast. Uh, but a way to make it a bit cheaper is, of course, to add some water. So that depends on the water, or I mean, on the berry or fruit, and if you need enzymes like pectinase or other things. So it all depends on what fruits or berries you like, because not all of them translates well into wine or beer. And yeah, I was going through some bad times at this time of last year, and I still am, but I'm used to it. And yeah, it's weird what they expect from you in a kitchen, is especially if you're used to high level stuff. And yeah, when it comes to wine or beer, it's necessary to add yeast. Depends on what character you want, because the problem with wild yeast is that sure it can ferment, and there is wild yeast on most things that you can encounter in the world, even in the air around you. But the issue is that wild yeast is what it sounds like, wild. So you may not get the desired effects that you want on a drink. Like it can become very, yeah, it can become something you don't want, unless you have a specially acquired taste. So yeah, if you want to have a controlled situation of a controlled fermentation, I recommend studying some yeast strains and finding something that suits your flavor profile and what you like, because that makes a big difference. And no, I don't make my music under effects of drugs, except a few of my piano meditations I make while drinking beer. And of course, in Life Flower, we used to do benzodiazepines and drink. But when it comes to things like acid or mushrooms, I think it's better to do that separate from the recording. And yeah, good to hear that some of you are also going to bed like I'm going to be soon, and looking forward to see you on Saturday. I will see if I can improve on this, because right now it's just an improvisation. And I would never call myself a barista, but yeah, I'm a cook. I've been a chef for 20 years now. I started working, like in many cases, you become a boss boy and you take care of dishes and cleaning tables. And I've done some waiting, and but in many cases, I've been at the back of a restaurant doing like cold and hot aspects of the kitchen. And yes and no. Sammy, you shouldn't use the same yeast for bread as you do for beer. But on the other hand, important distinction to make, you should be able to make good bread with the yeast from your beer. And the reason for that is that they have different procedures and precautions when it comes to growing the yeast, because there is less off flavors present in bread than beer or wine. And that means that when you're buying yeast made for baking, that's going to have a lot more diverse and wide flavor profile than a yeast made for beer or wine. And those are flavors that you associate with bread. In other words, it will make your beer taste like bread, and that's not a good thing in many cases. And I wouldn't call my trips bad, but yeah, I had a few ones that are unpleasant. And that's an important distinction to make, I think. And yeah, at 18 years old, I was working at a restaurant doing dishes. And in the mornings, I was delivering newspapers. And in the nights, I was copying dubbing tapes for my web shop and distribution. where I had maybe between 200 or 300 different items in my shop. Um, and then, of course, walking and painting. I didn't do college. I stopped school at 16. And yeah, I would love to go to Monterey sometime. It's a bit off where I usually go, but I will try in the future. I think I'm getting closer to where I can go in the comments right now. So yeah, uh, instead of just leaving you in another pee break or getting another beer, I think it's better that we continue this on Saturday. So thank you all for joining me here and learning a bit more about this process and what I can do to improve it. I've never been to Brazil, and my favorite color is purple. My beers are out, so see you on Saturday. And thank you all for watching, and take care. And it's been a big pleasure to do this. And yeah, sorry for those of you who may have been waiting for the end of this. And also sorry for those of you who may wanted me to speak well about Eric or other members of Attain. If you care that much about what I think about another band, to be able to enjoy or devote yourself to hypothermia or other things I do, well, once again, fuck Attain. And fuck you. If I had more beer, I would send cheers to those of you watching, but yeah, it's fucking gone. But I appreciate all of you who stayed with me. And I will be active on Instagram in the future. I just don't have the time or energy right now. So yeah, see you next time. And I look forward to seeing what we can do with this. Yeah, take care. And yeah, I will make a notice for the next live stream so people see it. I know. Take care.